What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you an update on Pathfinder Abomination Vault, the upcoming ARPG, or at least potentially so, that was announced a little while ago to be in the works from Become Studios. I made a video on this a while back talking about the announcement and how this game would be doing a Kickstarter campaign in order to raise said funds. That Kickstarter is here, technically launched a few days ago, so I thought it would be a good time to talk about some of the things they have in mind for this game, provided, of course, this Kickstarter is successful and the campaign is funded. But a few things to mention here at the beginning. As a general rule, I do not promote Kickstarters. The inherent, very volatile nature of a Kickstarter and whether or not things actually pan out the way people would like them to makes that a minefield I'm not willing to step into. So with that in mind, while I will be discussing some of the things they have in mind here, with information coming from this Kickstarter, it is not in any way an endorsement of it, nor a suggestion that you should back it. That's a financial decision you're going to have to make for yourself, and isn't something I can help you with. That said, this is actually only one of the games that Become Studios said they were working on. And given this Kickstarter and the information we've already learned, we know that this particular game that they're hoping to have released in 2025 is obviously not the one that they mentioned would be releasing on Steam later this year. Given that we have zero information about the one that is apparently releasing this year as far as we know, I would be willing to bet that that particular Pathfinder game is not one with a particularly large scope. But that said, we still have zero information on it, so really hard to say. But given the situation surrounding it, I would be surprised if it is anything other than a very small title. On to the topic at hand. Let's actually talk about some of the things we learned about this hack-and-slash interpretation of the Pathfinder Abomination Vault's adventure path. For starters, it will be an ARPG, think Diablo, which we already knew, but I think it's important to start there because that means that this will never be a complete implementation of the Pathfinder rule set, as that uses a more turn-based system where this will be more fast-paced and action-packed, so to speak. And with that in mind, the characters we will be doing that with are 4 iconic characters, as they are called, that is to say, the class representative, called an iconic in the Pathfinder world, and the 4 we'll have access to are Amiri, Harsk, Kyra, and Ezrin, or a barbarian, ranger, cleric, and a wizard, respectively. They had previously confirmed Amiri and Ezrin. Harsk and Kyra were in some of the images they had shown, but they were never actually confirmed, so here we see that confirmation. And I would imagine they picked pre-generated characters like this specifically because an ARPG interpretation of the rules of Pathfinder really needs you to focus in on a set playstyle, and the iconic characters sort of have that. So I imagine just from a development perspective, that would probably be a little easier to implement than a more free-form approach to the system. And when it comes to advancing with these characters, they do mention that the system and the creatures and everything involved are pulling from Pathfinder 2nd Edition, and while it obviously won't be a one-for-one representation, it will be relying heavily on that as the source material, and so, when it comes to advancing our characters, we're going to be doing things like picking a specialization as well as feats that will then alter your playstyle. So I imagine this will work much like a skill tree from a normal ARPG, but exactly what you're picking up will be more Pathfinder in flavor. With each specialization, you can pick setting you up for a certain playstyle, like they give Ezrin's elemental magic as an example, but there will apparently be more than one per character. And then if I had to guess, the specialization will probably narrow it down to which feats you can actually pick from or something of that nature. But nice to know that they have the Pathfinder system in mind there, even if it's going to be an odd take. But one thing I found especially interesting in this regard is that they are planning on a combo effects system. That is to say, the skills and abilities of other characters will play off of each other in some way. As this game is planned to be a 1 to 4 player co-op experience, you can either play entirely single player or with up to 3 other people, each taking on the role of one of our adventurers, thus simulating in a more fast-paced way the Abomination Vault's adventure path. Each of these characters will have a variety of skills to use, as we would expect, but they seem to want these to have some interplay. They give an example of Ezrin's Firewall and Amiri's Whirlwind having some interactions, with Amiri moving through said firewall to then add a fire effect to the Whirlwind. And while not a completely unheard of idea, as we've seen something like that here and there throughout the games industry, I do think it would add an interesting layer, especially to the co-op present in the game. But assuming you're playing this in single player, I'd be curious to know if they had anything in mind there, such as just more environmental actions, or if this is relegated strictly from your party. A little early probably to say either way, we really don't know there. But nonetheless, a cool touch I thought I would mention. And last but not least, it does seem that they have a New Game Plus planned right from the beginning in order to offer some replayability, though obviously too soon to know much in the way of details on how that would work, but it's something they want to add. All of that is more or less what they have in mind for this game, at least in terms of new details we've learned here. And overall, I would say, again, it sounds pretty interesting. I would be up for a version of this, as I really just love Pathfinder. But I do think it's important to note a couple of things. One, the ARPG market is a very touchy one. It's a hard genre to get into and do right. It's dominated by a few big players, and as such, while I sincerely hope they manage to make a great game provided it gets funded, I really don't know that I would expect it to be some smash hit, but I do think it appeals to someone like myself who just really enjoys Pathfinder and ARPGs. Ultimately though, time will tell on this one. I don't think we're going to see a fully fledged game here anytime soon, so next time there's a major update, I'll be sure to keep you updated, but I really wouldn't expect to hear more from this one for quite some time. That's all I've got for you guys today though, just a look at a game I'm keeping an eye on personally. Hope you found it informative or interesting. By all means, let me know what you think about it down in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz. But regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.